All of our productions at GCTV are brought to you in part by People's United Bank, 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. C&S Wholesale Grocers is hiring in Hatfield and Brattleboro. Go to weselectthebest.com or click on the link at gctv.org for employment opportunities. The Arbors at Greenfield, assisted living community providing a unique balance of independence and personal care that offers residents and families the most precious gift of all, peace of mind. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com and check them out on Facebook. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. gcc.mass.edu. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield, call them at 774-3191, or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Franklin Community Co-op. Visit them at 144 Main Street in Greenfield, or go online to franklincommunity.coop. Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all the productions at Greenfield Community Television.
I guess most of you already know the basics about me. I'm a historian. That's sort of my primary identity right now. Teaching at UMass, working on my dissertation. And you also all know that I've been a carpenter in the past, and I continue to do that here and there when I can. And I could always go back to it anytime in the future. I was happy doing it, and I'd be happy doing it again. And I guess my third identity is as an artist, and so I'm really happy to be able to foster that as well. I wondered what to say, and I thought, well, maybe I would just take you through the progression of how I came up with the ideas for some of these and when I started working on some of them, because each one is its own sort of little segment, and I could go back to different ideas, but they do represent different times for me. So I've been drawing since I could hold a pencil, or maybe even earlier than that. I'm sure some of you who are artists identify with that. You know, you picked up art materials when you were kids, and then, you know, it never went away. You just kept doing it. And it actually was really useful for me because I was small and shy and not very aggressive about getting up close to things. So if I was in a museum or at the aquarium or something like that, I would be behind people. They were all too tall for me. I couldn't see. And so my mom's solution for that was to give me a sketchbook and a pencil. And, you know, so people get out of your way. When you have a sketchbook and a pencil, they get out of your way. So that allowed me to see things, and it just kept me drawing. But I never wanted to work with color, really, until after college. So I learned photography and printmaking, intaglio printmaking, from some very talented teachers, and I worked for a printmaker who taught me a lot about the process of intaglio printmaking, and I printed for her. She was a full-time working artist, and I printed her work for quite a while, and that gave me a good insight into the kind of meticulousness that you need as a printmaker. But I'm not, you know, I'm not that meticulous of a person. So in the end, I'm not sure that I really could make it as a full-time printmaker. I enjoy the work, but it's very exacting. And photography is also similarly exacting if you're working in a dark room. And again, you know, this is stuff that many of you already know. But drawing is a little less exacting. It's a little more free form. And painting is free form, but I never considered painting I said, like I said, until later, and I liked working in black and white, and then all of a sudden, when I pretty much when I started, it coincided when I started to do carpentry. I thought I'd really like to do big works, like big life-size works in color of my coworkers, and mostly because I found them so beautiful. I would be working and concentrating on work and whatever, but there's a lot of time when you just can think. You can't really talk to people because you need to be talking about important things like the crane is bringing this truss in, or or help me stand this wall. It's time to nail, or yes, I have the right measurement on the string. You can't really talk about trivial things as a frame carpenter, but you get to look at people, and especially on beautiful summer days, sunny days, everybody looked just so beautiful. And when I would come home when I wasn't tired, and I was talking to a few of you about this. In the wintertime, I would come home and I would just fall asleep. But in the summertime, especially if the day wasn't really hot, like May, early June, or September, there's enough time in the afternoon you can just spend outside, calm, quiet, come home, and I had brought back materials from the job site. The painting that's over there of Brody against the big black painting that's on Advantech, that is a subfloor material, and it's really thick and heavy, and I didn't really know how it would paint, but I liked the effect actually, and that was the first one that I did of my coworkers, and it came out. Yeah, you have a question?
Did you do some sketching first before you came up with that idea for that painting, or did you just?
That forces me to look back a little bit. Maybe I did. I might have, but not the same picture. So I may have sketched Brody's face a little bit. So yeah, in that sense, I had a kind of an idea of what I needed to do, but not with the paint, because I didn't know what the paint would do. But I knew what his face looked like, and I had sketched it. And then when I gessoed that panel, I used chalk to kind of do the outline of where I was going to paint. But it was so random. I mean, had no idea. What it was going to look like and whether it was going to look terrible. I thought, well, no big deal. The Advantech was free. It was going to be trashed. Wrestled it out of the dumpster, and so no big deal. The only cost there was my paint. Yeah.
So you're saying that you never used that medium before?
I had tried with acrylics just very minimally before that, but nothing much. And I couldn't work with regular oils because I lived in an apartment before that, and I couldn't deal with the turpentine. So I was really that painting also coincided with me trying water-soluble oils, which I really like because you can wash your brushes. And one thing that I should tell you, because there are people who've actually gone to art school and they know about painting. Meredith is one of those people. I don't know how the paints and how my working on plywood or Advantech or whatever will hold up over time. It's one of those questions that I'm kind of curious to find out. Is it going to crack earlier? Is it going to flake, or is the plywood going to leach through? I'm okay with that. If it happens, it happens. That's life. But I am curious to find out. Maybe you might know more actually.
I don't know anything about
Are the rest of them on different types of building materials? Or?
These are plywood. This is not. But a lot of the other paintings are on plywood, and again, different different thicknesses or grades of plywood from different job sites, and so they've all been treated a little bit differently. And so again, I don't know that there's going to be any regularity about it at all. It's an adventure.
I'm curious about that because I a while ago we had talked about it and wondered if if the material is important or not.
Yeah, I mean, it works for me,
Because it goes with the subject.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I wasn't sure if that's.
Yeah, actually, when Victor and Meredith came with me to buy the piece of plywood that I'm using to paint my old boss Doug, which is not here at GCTV right now, but I know that the person at the lumber yard was like, "Well, I don't know if you really want to paint on it." And I said, "All right, it's fine, it's fine. It's the subject matter. It fits the subject matter." And I think maybe if I were going with different subjects, it would certainly be easier to paint on canvas from the standpoint of transport, because it's so much lighter and it's easier to hang. So I mean, in that sense, canvas is really nice, and I'd love to try using it more. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if, feel free to ask me about any of the people who are in the pictures or any of the pictures. Some folks have already asked me about the drawings, so just jump in.
I was thinking about 1930s
Yeah.
history, and I remember 5 years ago you had talked to me about your interest in history from that time period, and I think we had talked about the art that had been created then, after the discovery of King Tut's tomb, and there's a lot that went back to people working
Yeah.
in different ways. And I think we talked about some things maybe sort of being representational of that. Am I making
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of what I really like to look at in art is the work that was done in the 1930s and for the New Deal through the Works Progress Administration. There were programs in Federal One for visual arts, for theater, for music, allowing people to be employed in their art of choice, I guess, and I guess I really identify with that. I wish that we still had programs like that, and we do somewhat, sometimes. But this was a gigantic work program, and so yeah, I've been around the country and looked at the public art that was done for that, and and it's interesting that you bring up, layers of historical influence, I guess, because I study history, I'm probably more inclined than some people to be influenced by history. I'm definitely influenced by historic architecture, and that comes out in the drawings more than the paintings, but both historic architecture and places that I've lived and loved. So those two kind of dovetail a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Are these places you went to after work?
If the Hotsy Totsy Club had been in Vermont, then yeah, we probably would have gone there. Actually, I was not forced. I was invited twice to Hooters after work, which was interesting. But no, the Hotsy Totsy Club is in El Cerrito, California, and that's a town I used to live in. It's probably one of the closest places to a hometown that I have. It's on San Pablo Avenue, if you know California, and El Cerrito used to be the red light district, actually, of the East Bay. The Hotsy Totsy Club is just a bar. It's not a, there are no dancing girls or anything like that. It's just a bar. Oddly enough, when you walk by, even though for the longest time no smoking has been allowed in bars in California, I still feel like I can smell smoke when I pass by it. And it doesn't quite look like that, but that's just sort of my hazy memory of it. and then Albany Bowl is not Albany, New York, but Albany, California, and it's a historic, at this point, a historic bowling alley in Albany, which is a great town. Yeah, a little bit north of Berkeley. Yeah.
So what's it like doing such precise and fine work and doing the painting? Seems so different.
Yeah, I guess I probably choose what I'm doing by mood. So if I'm feeling really freewheeling or I want to be a lot more relaxed about what I'm doing, painting can be precise, but I mean, my favorite part of the process is the undercoat, the underpainting, you know, where you can just kind of go crazy. And then it's a lot harder, for example, to to try and get people's facial features the way that you really want them, you know, the way that you can envision them in your head. That's hard and exacting. But yeah, I guess I like to work on a big painting when I'm just feeling like I want to do something free and easy. And then during the winter, doing the drawings is easier. You can sit in one place, maybe in front of the fire or something like that, and it's not too bad as long, you know, once you've planned it out and you've drawn in the basic part of the drawing with pencil. A lot of the buildings, for example, it can be kind of meditative to draw the clapboards or the bricks. It's really repetitive. You're not likely to mess it up. So I guess there's definitely sort of a calm meditative aspect to that, and then occasionally there are frustrating pieces of that too, like when you're about 75 to 80% done with a drawing and you just don't feel like working on it anymore. then it's frustrating.
Do you have a very clear image in your head of what you want it to look like, or does it emerge?
Sometimes I do. With the paintings, I definitely have a definite image, and they more or less come out, although not perfectly. They always take a little bit of a different direction, or I'm not good enough to capture exactly what I want in them. But they come out good enough for me. With the drawings, I'm usually if there's a person in the drawing, I usually start with the person because I like people and I like drawing people. And so once the person is in there, then it's easy to kind of fill in the background behind them. And then for that, I'm sort of making it up as I go along. So that's usually how those work. The only one of the big pen and ink drawings that are on the blue wall that I really planned heavily in advance was the Night Factory, the one that's heavily black. That one I sort of had an idea and I planned it in advance, and again it changed as I worked on it, but I had an idea for that one. Everything else was different.
So you painted the two winged people before you painted the buildings and the structures that they were on?
Yeah. It was really I may have put a line for the boy that's swinging from the railing on the bridge. I may have put a line across the drawing, and then with the expectation that I was going to situate him on a bridge, but I didn't. I really do think, and I can't remember now for sure, but I really do think that I started with his body, the movement of his body, and the same for the guy who has the homemade wings, the Icarus boy. I'm pretty sure I started with his leap.
And you thought it would be a cityscape or old brick buildings at the...
Yeah. What I wanted for both of those actually was and I don't know that this more or less came out, but it wasn't it wasn't perfect for me. It didn't come out perfectly, but I more or less wanted a slightly dilapidated, an aging town, with sort of a post-industrial town like the ones that we live in, with mills or factories, abandoned or maybe not abandoned. But and what I was telling Leslie was that, I think I was telling you, that it was really, or maybe it was Penfield, that I had a hard time getting that sort of dilapidated building look. That was difficult, and some of that comes from peeling paint, and I can't figure out how to, or maybe it was Betsy. Who was it? Yeah, so I still haven't figured out how to draw that peeling paint, or that the sort of worn bricks. What makes worn bricks different from brand new bricks? I don't know, but eventually I'll figure it out and it'll look right. Yeah, so that was my idea for that. I don't know if there's anything, you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, so on Harry,
Yeah.
what were you trying to communicate about Harry?
That was of all the projects, the three that are at the very back, Harry, which is in oil pens. They're Sharpie oil pens on plywood. And then there are two drawings of mythical critters next to that. And those are what I do for total fun. Those are my absolute pleasurable projects. And Harry's my cat, in case, I think everybody knows, but Harry's my cat. And he's just so handsome. No, I wanted to try out, all it was I wanted to try out the Sharpie oil pens. And, but he's a good looking cat and he knows it. And
He does.
yeah. And he often sits like that, looking very graceful, like with his head over his shoulder. Yeah.
Influence.
Yeah, it does kind of, yeah. It does. Yeah, Harry actually shows up in a lot of stuff. When I'm trying to draw foxes or when I'm trying to draw rabbits or whatever, I can't help but Harry's face just shows up in there. He's a good cat.
Well, Leslie noticed that this was somebody you liked. She
Oh,
thought
yeah.
He was a nice person.
Yeah, this is
I like
Ben.
that story.
Yeah.
So I asked her, "Do you like that person?"
Ben. Don't worry. We're not that close. Ben is my one of my two bosses for Leary and Wilson. So he's the Wilson side of Leary and Wilson, Doug Leary and Ben Wilson. And you can tell because of the red hard hat. In certain kinds of carpentry, there's sort of a hard hat hierarchy, and
Hard hat, triple H.
yeah. So owners are red, foremen are blue, carpenters are yellow, and depending on the company, carpenters helpers or laborers are white.
So was your helmet white?
What's that?
Was your helmet white?
No, when I started it was white, but it didn't stay white for very long. I got a yellow one pretty soon after I started, and my company really likes the kind with the full brim because it's actually a lot safer. So anyway, yeah, and then I got to blue. I have a blue one as well. So I was a foreman for that was a while ago. I mean, it's like That's a finally belated congratulations for becoming a foreman. So if you're right to notice Ben looks really sensitive in this picture. He pretty much looks sensitive all the time. That's just the way he looks. He is sensitive. He's not the kind of person you would imagine would be on a commercial framing site. He's not loud, he's very quiet, he's a really good teacher. He taught me a lot of stuff about carpentry. He taught me, you know, everything from what are the tools called, you know, and how do you set up a ladder, and, you know, how do you measure these things, or what are the sizes of plywood, you know, all the basic stuff to even some elements of timber framing. So anyway, he's a really good teacher, and he's moved on from Larry and Wilson. He now works for a design build firm in Vermont. But he went to Wesleyan actually, and so that's a really different kind of person for a carpentry company on a commercial site, and I think it probably comes across in his look. But it probably also helped me get hired. I called Doug, but I interviewed with Ben, and I said, I know my experience isn't very pertinent, but I'd like to work with you, and so he was cool with that. So, yeah. And then this is Chris, or Crispy, and so he and I were sort of co-four people on a couple of different jobs. He's good. He's really good with heights. Me, I like the ground. So I'm on the ground. Chris is being a monkey up in the rafters or up on the roof or in the basket or whatever. I can do that, but you know, it's better that Chris does it because he's good at it. And this is Pat, who is probably the least likely person you would imagine to have a Thug Life tattoo. He's not Thug Life at all. He's this very friendly Vermonter who, you know, when he walks onto the job site in the morning, you know, there's a Robbins, and he's like, "Hello, Mrs. Robin." Yeah, that's Thug Life. So yeah, they're my friends.
About faith and loyalty.
Yeah, that's. I wish I could remember that guy's name. I don't remember his name. He didn't work for our company. He was a subcontractor. And I used to know his name, but I can't remember anymore. But what really, what made me want to paint him was his tattoos. I just thought they were so interesting, you know. I mean, really large, you know, bold faith and loyalty, like to be reminded all the time, or to remind other people, like that was so important to him. Yeah.
How long did you work with them?
5 years. 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 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 And people come and go, but basically 5 years for most of them.
So would you just sketch when you got home, or did you ever? So it was all from memory, or did you ever have them ask them to pose? Or
I wish I'm not so brave. I wish I wish I were brave enough for that. Some of them might have. You know, some of them might have said yes. Doug used to send me with a camera around because he wanted a website that had pictures of all the people working on all the different sites. So I didn't do a lot of these from a photograph, but I did have the opportunity to, you know, if my duties were somewhat light that day, I could have the camera in my tool pouch and you know, just snap pictures as I saw people doing interesting things. And you know, everybody had a profile, and so the two photographs of Chris up there are from days when Doug said, "Here, take the camera, get some pictures."
And do you do the darkroom?
For the black and white on the blue wall, so there's 3 black and white photographs on the blue wall. Those I did in the darkroom myself. I can only develop black and white. I've never learned how to work with color, so the color photographs I had printed at a shop.
it's a real pain.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like a real pain. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And now, of course, you know, now that, you know, it's harder and harder to come by analog photography supplies. So, yeah, that's why, in the end, you know, maybe it's better to paint and draw because, yeah.
And you may have explained to everybody about Dream Chicago.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, it might be worth explaining just for posterity or whatever. It's not the way that Chicago is really. I mean, I think you can tell that by looking at it. In Chicago, there's a lake, and there's no lake in the picture, or there's only a hazy lake where I've put the word Stream Chicago. But I have, for years since I lived there, had dreams about the city, and you know, it's not, I'm not conscious in the dream that it's Chicago, but when I wake up, it's pretty clear to me that that's what it is. So I thought it'd be fun to try and piece those dreams together, because I was often walking or driving or bicycling in the city in those dreams. It'd be fun to try and put a map together of the places and see if I could figure out where they might intersect on a real map. And so I tried to do that, and there are 3 or 4 distinct dreams in there. You know, each, you know, you can see kind of neighborhoods, and I've written some descriptions of what I saw in the dream. And do those correspond with something in real Chicago? Sometimes. You know, there are terracotta buildings, white glazed terracotta buildings. Yes, then that's in there. Or there's an area of town where it smells like brownies. That's real. But some of it's just the product of my dream state. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I'd like to do a Waking Chicago to have a, you know, a comparison. Yeah. That might be it. But anyway, thanks for coming out. It's been really great to see you all, and thanks again, Scott.
All of our productions at GCTV are brought to you in part by People's United Bank, 45 Federal Street in Greenfield. Call them at 774-3713 or visit them online at peoples.com. C&S Wholesale Grocers is hiring in Hatfield and Brattleboro. Go to weselectthebest.com or click on the link at gctv.org for employment opportunities. The Arbors at Greenfield, assisted living community providing a unique balance of independence and personal care that offers residents and families the most precious gift of all, peace of mind. The Hammond Family. The Hammond family are longtime supporters of Greenfield Community Television. New Fortune Chinese Restaurant on the Mohawk Trail in Greenfield. Visit them online at newfortunema.com and check them out on Facebook. Greenfield Community College, providing access and excellence in higher education in the Pioneer Valley. gcc.mass.edu. Greenfield Savings Bank. Visit them at 400 Main Street in Greenfield, call them at 774-3191, or go online to greenfieldsavings.com. Franklin Community Co-op. Visit them at 144 Main Street in Greenfield, or go online to franklincommunity.coop. Bay State Health, providing the care you and your family need when you need it close to home. Visit them online at baystatehealth.org. Thank you to our sponsors for supporting all the productions at Greenfield Community Television.